Rise of the Planet of the Apes is a movie that I would lump in with the greatest remakes of all time. It's technically kind of like Batman Begins in the Dark Knight trilogy because it is associated with superior movies in the very same series. It is often forgotten. Like Batman Begins slaps, but because it is in the same series as The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, people tend to write it off. Kind of similar to Rise of the Planet of the Apes. It's a great movie, but it also occupies airspace with Dawn and War for the Planet of the Apes. So you got to look at it and go, yeah, that's also in the series as well. But secretly, Rise of the Planet of the Apes is among the very best of the Apes movies probably ever. It was directed by Rupert Wyatt and it starred James Franco, Frida Pinto, Andy Serkis, and John Lithgow. It tells the story of a doctor played by, or a scientist rather, played by James Franco. He is working on a serum and a vaccine that can eventually cure Alzheimer's because his father has it, played by John Lithgow. However, the experiment goes belly up, and so it is almost shut down. But as a bit of a going away present, he is given a baby chimp to take home and eventually adopt. He eventually names the chimp Caesar. And over the course of years, you see that when Caesar's mother was injected with ALZ-112, the serum that is going to cure Alzheimer's during the chimp trials, it was passed on from mother to son. And so we see Caesar go from simple chimpanzee to the leader of a chimpanzee revolution. This movie is secretly excellent, and like I said, because it occupies the same space as Dawn and War for the Planet of the Apes, people tend to be like, "Oh yeah, that's also in the series too," when in reality, it's just as good as Dawn and War. Honestly, Dawn and War for the Planet of the Apes, along with Rise, that's a trilogy that is just all hits and no misses. This whole movie came about because screenwriter Rick Jaffa was reading an article in a newspaper about how a chimpanzee was adopted by a human and the chimp didn't adapt so well. And so the proverbial light bulb went off on his head and thought, Planet of the Apes, there you go. There was actually supposed to be a sequel to the Burton Planet of the Apes movie that came out in 2001. Burton was set to come back, however, due to creative differences, that old chestnut, he walked away from the project. And so in turn, Mark Wahlberg, Tim Roth, and Helena Bonham Carter all walked with him because they took the stance of, if Burton's not there, then we're not there. And so the Burton Planet of the Apes universe died a death. But this paved the road for Rise, which is a superior movie in every way. I know there's a lot of people that don't like James Franco for a lot of reasons, but he is really good in the movie. He is a scientist, but he takes in Caesar and cares for him and raises him. But there's a subtle undertone of he's only doing this because he's a scientist and he views Caesar as just an experiment, nothing more, nothing less. And there's a level of coldness that is under the surface, and if you blink and you'll miss it, but if you notice it, you can't unnotice it. Frida Pinto is really good in the movie as well as a veterinarian who becomes the love interest of James Franco, and John Lithgow is really good as James Franco's character's father. But the star of the show by a lot is Andy Serkis, and over the next couple of reviews, you're probably going to hear me gush about Andy Serkis, but honestly, it's well deserved because the man absolutely crushed it. The dude is like the king of motion capture when it comes to when you consider Gollum, Snoke, yes, he made that work, and especially the of the Apes trilogy. He's especially great in Dawn and War, but this is the movie where it all got started, and he is just excellent. Count the number of lines of dialogue, spoken dialogue, that he has on one hand and have fingers left over. But Serkis does so much to communicate everything through his movements, through his facial expressions. At a certain point, I stopped thinking to myself, oh, that's clearly Andy Serkis in a mocap suit. I didn't see Andy Serkis. I saw Caesar. It's kind of similar to the original Planet of the Apes from '68. I don't see Roddy McDowall. I see Dr. Cornelius. But when Caesar does speak, in the iconic moment of the movie where he's being attacked by Tom Felton, aka Malfoy from the Harry Potter movies, and he says, "No!" Shockwaves. This movie is really a story of two-thirds and then a last third. The first two-thirds are all build up, and then the last third is a big old battle. But the first two-thirds are so compelling that the last third works just as well. And it's not a we're just waiting for the big battle now. All thirds of the movie, they all work. The first two-thirds are a compelling story in which Dr. Will Rodman, James Franco's character, is trying to create this serum to cure his father. And he does. However, the experiment goes south, and so his relationship with Caesar ends up going south as well. And then when you see Caesar get thrown into the chimp prison, for lack of a better word, he becomes jaded and eventually becomes the leader of the apes that was seen a little bit, especially in Conquest and Battle for the Planet of the Apes. So there's a nice full circle moment there. And this remake really does good at paying homage to the original. It doesn't like set aside, like, it doesn't like say, hey, do you get it? Like there was an original Planet of the Apes. Probably the most obvious moment is when Tom Felton says, "Take your hands off me, you damn dirty ape."
Take your stinking paw off me, you damn dirty ape!
Which, I mean, yeah, that was kind of in the cards there. But a subtle moment that I don't think anyone caught is when Caesar, like, attacks one of the guards and Felton sprays him with a water hose. I don't think that was an accident. I think that was a callback to when Heston gets sprayed with the hose in the original Planet of the Apes. It said, "This is a madhouse!" And Caesar says in Chimpanese that this is a madhouse. This is hands down an amazing movie. This is a movie that really just did exactly what a remake needs to do. If you have somehow not seen this movie, do yourself a favor and watch it. It is epic in every sense of the word, and this trilogy just gets better and better and better. But what did you all think of Rise? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to read what you have to say. And coming Saturday, I'll be joined by the other third of the Small Talk podcast, Matt Wyatt, to discuss Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.